101.8 Wanderers. Hello and welcome to the cosmic experience of One. This is an awareness expanding course that should be absorbed in order. Like a university course, this course's information builds upon itself, so you would be doing yourself a disservice if you took it in out of order. If you do not watch it in order, you might not comprehend the material, or worse, you will think you fully understood it and walk away with a skewed interpretation. Do yourself a favor and first view 101.1, 101.2, 101.3, and 101.4, which are all in one video that starts with an introduction to this course. Then continue on in viewing the subjects in order. The introduction to this course needs to be taken in first in order to know the nature of this awareness expanding course. Think of this course as a book where you will not understand it fully if you do not read the chapters in order. Chapter 1 being the introduction that is imperative to take in first. So please click on the link in the description section under this video to view the first video. We will speak of wanderers, also known as starseeds. Later 4th subdensity to later 6th subdensity beings can choose to re-experience an incarnation or more in the 3rd density to offer aid and teach universal love, knowledge, wisdom, and assist in raising the collective's consciousness simply by adding their potentially high vibration to the planetary collective. This also gives the higher density beings the opportunity to further their united group's advancement toward graduation in their true density more quickly than they could by staying in their true density doing service to others' work, because there are more opportunities in the intense 3rd density. The greater the challenges, the greater the possibilities of gaining polarity. Beings who perform this action have been called wanderers or starseeds on Earth. We will refer to all of them, 4th through 6th, as wanderers because only 6th density wanderers united groups may inhabit a star and so be in line with the label starseeds. Typically, wanderers offer their services to a civilization or planet at pivotal times during a 3rd density experience. The time period close to the end of a grand cycle where all are harvested is the most pivotal time period. So this is when there is the greatest influx of wanderers incarnating onto 3rd density planets. Beings on the negative path seldom become wanderers because there is a large risk they will not remember their mission and get stuck in 3rd density by way of karmic ties. Since they are service to self beings, typically the best way to serve oneself is to continue to focus on oneself in the current density and not risk being a wanderer in a lower density. It is seen as a risky and brave action to be a wanderer because they have to go through the veil of forgetfulness like all other 3rd density beings, and so forget who they are and their pre-incarnate planned mission. It is also risky because if the wanderer does not remember their mission, they run the risk of creating karma and getting entangled in the 3rd density experience. If this happens, they have to keep reincarnating onto the 3rd density planet till they balance the created karma instead of incarnating back into their true density after the 3rd density incarnation is over. After they have balanced the karma created on the 3rd density planet, or when harvest time begins, they return to their true density. Karmic ties being created in 3rd density by a wanderer is akin to trying to help others out of the mud pit and instead ending up in the mud with them. The challenging dance of a wanderer is one of balance and fortitude, being in the world to directly assist as much as possible, but not being of the world and getting caught up in low vibratory mentality and actions. Most wanderers incarnate onto third density planets near the end of a grand cycle, living only one incarnation before the harvest time, so they do not get stuck in karma and have to keep reincarnating onto the planet. They can still accumulate karma that lowers their positive polarization, prompting them to serve and aid more in order to recoup polarity and continue working toward graduating from their true density. But they will not be tied to reincarnating onto the third density planet due to karmic ties, since that particular third density experience ended. This, along with the fact that the challenges in the time period before harvest time offer numerous polarization opportunities, is why most wanderers choose to incarnate near the end of a third density planet's grand cycle. Due to the veil of forgetfulness of incarnating into third density, most wanderers do not end up remembering their mission. The path to a wanderer's remembering comes through in stages of awareness, just like any third density being's path of awareness expansion. But since the wanderer has already experienced at least a third and fourth density, they have the ability to remember much quicker, unconsciously tapping into their subconscious mind and accessing the trunk or roots of the tree of mind. First, the wanderer notices there is something different about them compared to other beings, which then could grow into a feeling of alienation as the feeling strengthens through observation of the low vibratory planetary ways. This may grow to the point where the wanderer recognizes, to an increased degree, that the planetary ways of insanity are not their personal ways, and the planet does not feel like their true home. Pre-incarnate agreements with other beings are carried out as they grow older, offering the wanderer more and more opportunities to gravitate toward a field or fields of work where they may carry out their mission, or where they get equipped with knowledge, wisdom, skills, and abilities to perform their mission elsewhere. Often the mission is carried out with the wanderer not even remembering they are a wanderer, or that they had planned a certain pre-incarnate mission. But they know their work will aid their fellow planetary beings in some way, perhaps greatly. Accomplishing the mission is their goal. Remembering one is a wanderer is not the goal, although remembering may assist in accomplishing their mission, depending on their particular mission. Even if a wanderer does remember and/or is gravitated toward their mission, they still need to overcome the many obstacles that have been created in the civilization or planet they wish to aid. The more negative polarity actions that have taken root in a civilization or planet, the greater the obstacles for the wanderer. In addition to those obstacles, if a wanderer remembers who they are and/or their mission, and starts to put it into action, fourth density negative beings are drawn to them like moths to a light and target them heavily. Light attracts the light, and dark attracts the dark, but the opposite is also the case. Light attracts the dark, and the dark attracts the light. One attracts the aid of their own polarity because of a shared intention, which is similar to those hearing and communicating with each other due to using the same radio frequency. One attracts hindrances from the opposite polarity when a significant amount of polarity is attempting to be created or being created that signals the opposite polarity beings who attempt to limit or stop the polarity from being created for energy balancing purposes and to assist their chosen polarity, positive or negative. The wanderer has to rely on the limitations of being in third density and does not have the abilities of their true density they came from, even if they remember their true density and that they are a wanderer. But if a wanderer adequately balances their chakras, small aspects of their higher density abilities are recovered when they bleed through from the subconscious mind. When a wanderer incarnates into third density, they must play by the ways/rules of that density. At no time can they fully recoup their true density's abilities and be an unstoppable force in third density. Even though it is very difficult for a wanderer to remember who they are, fully recouping their true density's abilities would be considered unfair on the third density game board. Although a wanderer is able to relearn things very quickly since they have already learned them and intuitively tap into their subconscious mind where all their incarnations reside and all they have learned. Since a wanderer has recently experienced a higher density, what they have experienced and learned in that higher density resides at the top layer of their subconscious mind, so it is easier to intuitively access instead of it being buried at the bottom layer of the subconscious mind like it is for true third density beings. If this were not the case, there would not be much of a reason in signing up to be a wanderer, as the percentages would be very extremely high for one to not remember their mission, not provide aid, and get caught up in third density karma. As it is already very difficult for a wanderer to remember their mission and accomplish it. Wanderers, especially from the sixth density, might feel at a young age that their Earth family is not their real family, as they subconsciously have a link to their united group in their true higher density, which is their true family. The feeling may be similar to that of an orphan taking up residency with a new family. It is rare, but if the wanderer remembers their mission and is making great advances toward fulfilling it and does not give into temptation nor allows major hindrances from fourth density negatives, a fifth density negative being might reluctantly take up the task that their fourth density underlings could not handle and target the wanderer themselves with psychic attacks. They cannot attack directly and create that which is not already established. They have to work within negative inroads the wanderer allows to exist, such as negative thoughts and emotions created and or entertained, and pre-existing flaws in a wanderer's body and mind from a pre-incarnate planned genetic disposition and other pre-incarnate set ways that present limitations the negative being can utilize and take advantage of. They also have a greater ability than their fourth density underlings at using telepathy to potentially manipulate and tempt the third density beings around and close to the wanderer, specifically utilizing anyone who is working with the wanderer to fulfill the mission or who spends a lot of time with the wanderer. They also may target the wanderer's family and friends in an attempt to create discord with the wanderer. Even strangers the wanderers come in contact with may be utilized as tools. Everything that can be done to unbalance and stop the aiding work of the wanderer is done if fulfilling their particular mission has the probability of causing great advances toward positive polarity for the civilization or planet. Even charging a situation to end the wanderer's incarnation, causing them to transition, is possible. Third density weak links are targeted and used as tools against the wanderer. If the wanderer has to work within a group to fulfill their mission, it would behoove them to make sure it is tight and a faithful group to the cause. All the opposition a wanderer faces is an indirect message from the negatives that the wanderer is doing a great job performing their role, an indirect compliment or praise, so to speak. The same goes for any positively oriented third density being who is attempting to or is currently creating large amounts of positive polarity. The negatives would not be attacking if the being was not doing something of importance. If the wanderer is wise enough to comprehend this, they may deal with the attacks more gracefully. If the wanderer is also wise enough to know that it is nothing personal, but rather is simply the role of the negatives to stop positive polarity, then it is easier for the wanderer to shrug off the attacks. A third density being, wanderer or not, cannot create great amounts of positive polarity and not be attacked by the negatives. Just as a sports player is much more intensively guarded and attacked by the opposite team the closer they get to scoring a goal. It is simply the way of the game board, and when the pieces are familiar with gameplay, they do not take the other player's actions so seriously or personally. Feeling like a victim, being angry, fearful, or creating and or charging any other self-sabotaging thoughts or emotions due to the negative's attacks is falling right into the tactics of the negatives, as doing so lowers the wanderer's vibration, which affects their mission if not ceasing it entirely. If the negatives can manipulate the wanderer into ceasing their loving kindness nature with the attacks, this is a win for them in itself because, as we have said, the state of being is more important and has a major impact on the actions done in the physical. One of the tactics of the negatives is to get wanderers or third density positively oriented beings to sabotage themselves with self-defeating thoughts, emotions, and feelings towards themselves and or others around them. Doing such not only lowers one's vibration, but charges possibilities that fuel even more tension with oneself and others. If this is accomplished in a major way, the negatives can step away because the positive being is now actively destroying themselves, doing the negative's job for them. With no more light being produced, moths would no longer be drawn to the light to blot it out. Due to the attacks and friction from so many third density beings who are used as tools against the wanderer, if not dedicated and wise enough, might cast their mission aside, no longer willing to help their fellow planetary beings that seem to be against them at every step of the way. Or a wanderer, from merely observing low vibratory planetary ways, may develop a mental stance of apathy towards assisting the planetary beings they had pre-incarnate planned to assist. If such mental states arise, fourth or fifth density negatives read this mental state of the wanderer and utilize these inroads by attempting to charge / bolster the negative thoughts in order to stop the wanderer from fulfilling their mission. The negatives use telepathy to do this, offering temptation to the ways of negativity, selfishness, and separation. Their service to self doctrine offers telepathic thoughts or charges similar pre-existing thoughts like, "They do not deserve to be helped. Just focus on yourself," or "Why continue to help humanity when they do so many negative things to you? Just focus on yourself." All these tactics of the negatives against the wanderer we have listed are also used for any third density being who is positively oriented enough in nature to be performing work that could affect the dualism of polarity in their civilization or planet. The most effective defense against the negatives is to stay positive and keep a loving kindness nature no matter how great the opposition. The positively oriented third density being, known as Martin Luther King Jr., is a fine example for having done such. Showing loving kindness does not mean being a doormat or blindly trusting every third density being one comes in contact with, as third density beings will continue to be sent to their specified target, consciously or unconsciously, both being tools for the negatives. The target being a wanderer or a positively oriented third density being whose acts have the probability to positively polarize many other beings. Keeping a balanced level of analytical intelligence and intuition for one's discernments is of much benefit. Notice the opposition for what it is and deal with it accordingly without losing positivity and producing negativity. This is a hard task, and one will find themselves automatically reacting with negativity in the beginning. But if they continue to observe themselves and notice when they have slipped, they will become more unwavering through practice. The negatives want you to produce negativity from their attacks, as producing negativity poisons oneself and lowers their vibration, which is the negative's aim. By producing negativity, you are helping the negatives to destroy yourself. During attacks or in between, bathe yourself in universal love and even send it to the negatives who attack you. This is like poison to them. If you react to them with the same fiery negativity, it fuels them and their fire. But if you love them, they shrink away like fire coming in contact with water. During attacks, you can call on your higher self and or other positive higher density beings you have an affinity towards and ask for love, energy, and protection. Doing so with confident power instead of with fear strengthens the call for assistance and the aid that can be offered. A later fourth subdensity wanderer teaches what they have learned in fourth density: universal love, loving kindness, and compassion. A later fifth subdensity wanderer teaches what they have learned in fifth density: wisdom, knowledge, and effectiveness. A later sixth subdensity wanderer, having learned how to balance universal love with wisdom, has the greatest chance of being effective at their mission and teaching the ways of both the fourth and fifth density, as well as sixth density concepts and a higher viewpoint that ascends duality. The later sixth subdensity wanderers who graduated up to sixth density on the negative path and switched to positive polarity are very familiar with the ways and tactics of the negatives. The veil of forgetfulness is somewhat offset by their intuition, and the more practice they get from each attack, the more those tactics are recognized and how to overcome them rises from their subconscious mind to their conscious mind. Given this, and that they are very eager to aid third density to balance their large amounts of delayed karma, they could be seen as a force to be reckoned with, as long as they do not fall into old patterns before they grow aware enough of their pre-incarnate mission. They, as with all positive higher density beings, see their duty as an honor and are honored to perform the duty, instead of seeing it as a sign from judgment. Judgment is abandoned by fourth density positive beings, or in the density that a negative being switches polarities. Since later sixth subdensity beings are most equipped for the job, they are by far the largest percentage of wanderers who incarnate into third density to assist and teach near the end of a planet's grand cycle. At the end of a grand cycle, third density beings are all harvested whether they are ready to graduate to the next density or not. Those that are not ready to graduate incarnate onto a different planet, one where the third density experience can be continued for them. We will expand upon this in a future subject about the harvest. One of the cases where 6th density beings influence and assist 3rd density beings with teachings is when the contacted, in some manner, 3rd density being is a wanderer from the same later 6th subdensity united group that is assisting them. Thus, the wanderer's true density is of 6th density, which is precisely how and why this awareness expanding course is being made available to all 3rd density human beings. The wanderer conveying and bringing this awareness expanding course forward is of our later 6th subdensity united group. Since he has done the inner work to adequately balance his energy centers and expanded his knowledge and wisdom on his own accord during his incarnation, he is able to receive this information with no free will being abridged. Then, since he has wandered and incarnated back as a 3rd density being, he is able to relay this wide scope of information with other 3rd density beings without abridging their free will, because he is of the same density, even though temporarily, as those being offered the information. And he is not forcing the information onto any human being, but rather offering cosmic reality that human beings can choose to align with or not. In this way, free will is not abridged anywhere within the links. Typically, a wanderer is responsible for adequately balancing their energy centers /chakras in order to pierce the veil in some way before some type of non-physical contact can be made by their united group. Otherwise, this non-physical contact is typically not established. A later 6th subdensity united group could offer a certain level of information to a positively oriented 3rd density being if their civilization produced a sufficient mass calling, or the united group could do the same through a 4th or 5th density wanderer who has adequately balanced their chakras or is part of the civilization that has produced a sufficient mass calling. But when pertaining to bringing forward the wide scope of information and reality within this awareness expanding course, the pathway would have to be through a later 6th subdensity wanderer who already knows this information in the top layer of their subconscious mind and can remember it after they have done the inner work to adequately balance their chakras and put much focus on seeking and striving, because such a pathway is necessary for the wide scope of information to be understood and accurately brought through. There are 2 exceptions for beings who have chosen the positive path in the 4th to later 6th subdensities, where switching to the negative path may occur. A positive wanderer might not remember their mission and feel animosity toward the less advanced civilization they incarnated into, going on to perform at least 95% service to self actions and graduating to 4th density negative after the end of their 3rd density wanderer incarnation. They would become aware of their actions when they transition and the veil of forgetfulness is lifted. They would be dismayed with the actions they performed in their wandering incarnation and transition to the negative inner planes, where they would have to learn and prepare for incarnating onto a 4th density negative planet. This is difficult for them since they are not used to the negative ways. Even though they performed selfish actions in the last singular incarnation, they have many incarnations spanning more than one density stored in their subconscious mind of performing service to others acts that aligns with the mentality that is of positive polarity. They will have to advance through the subdensities as a 4th density negative being until they reach at least the middle subdensities and are able to switch their polarity back to positive and return to the positive path and their true density. The second exception is even rarer of an occurrence. If a 3rd density being, typically a wanderer, Is etheric projecting or in a trance while allowing a positive higher density being to temporarily use their body for traditional channeling with service to others' intentions, which produces enough light energy for a fifth density negative being to detect and take notice of. The fifth density negative could use deception to try to get the third density being to follow them in their out of yellow ray body state to a negative inner planes area of time and space. The fifth density negative could take on the appearance of an entity that appears to be service to others, so they might entice the third density being to follow them into the trap. If this happens to a true third density being, they may fall into a coma and or transition /die and reincarnate into third density again. If this happens to a wanderer, they may fall into a coma and or transition /die and be forced to incarnate into fourth density negative. What happens next for them to solve this issue we have already explained in the first exception. Some recognizable wanderers in Earth's history are known as Socrates, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Nikola Tesla, and Albert Einstein. Other Earth wanderers who taught universal love and wisdom that was later, after their departures, turned into heavily distorted religions will be covered later in the subject focusing on religions and their origins. Many wanderers who were just as effective or semi-effective as those listed are not known figures recorded in your history books. Since the end of a grand cycle on Earth is approaching very soon, an influx of wanderers have been incarnating onto Earth for decades, some even centuries ago, but most have incarnated close enough to the end of Earth's grand cycle for them to still be incarnated when harvest time begins. There are approximately 385 million wanderers incarnate on planet Earth now, most of them being sixth density wanderers. They are having an extremely difficult time remembering and fulfilling their missions due to the amount of programming and major control implemented on societal systems on Earth that were consciously or unconsciously engineered by negatively oriented third density beings with the influence and or greater assistance from their negative fourth density outer planes beings and fourth and fifth density inner planes negative beings, their chosen masters. Highly negatively oriented third density human beings have been called psychopaths, elites, or globalists by their fellow human beings. These are the human beings we speak of when we say highly negatively oriented third density beings, and also possibly when we say negatively oriented third density beings, or simply the negatively oriented, the latter two being for brevity's sake. A similar circumstance to wanderers, although much rarer, are what have been called walk-ins by some human beings, so we will use this term to refer to them. When a third density being becomes overwhelmed with life situations and intensely feels they can no longer accomplish their pre-incarnate plans, often contemplating suicide, a dream state contact might be made with a positive higher density being offering a solution. We will use a walk-in example of a known entity in your history that is a good example and has been used before on Earth to explain walk-ins: Abraham Lincoln. At the age of 44, Abraham had grown exhausted and overwhelmed with life. He did not wish to continue his life but had a strong enough character to avoid suicide. It was seen that he would not follow through with his pre-incarnate plans, so a positive fourth density being contacted him during dream state and a walk-in agreement was made because the fourth density being saw Abraham's pre-incarnate goal to be pivotal in the duality of polarity. The walk-in would use Abraham's third density body to fulfill the pre-incarnate agreements with other beings in his life and attempt to accomplish the goal Abraham had pre-incarnate planned that he felt he no longer could accomplish. In this way, the mission would still be pursued. Abraham's etheric body would reside in a plane of suspension until the transition/death of his third density body, the yellow ray body. The walk-in then went on to become President of the United States of America nation and used this position to legally end the service to self action of owning other human beings as property. This was the main pre-incarnate goal set by Abraham, and it was accomplished by his walk-in who saw it as an important enough goal to warrant walk-in assistance. As with wanderers, walk-ins pass through the veil of forgetfulness when they move into the third density body they will utilize, so they are not aware they are a walk-in and that the exchange has occurred and still think they are the same being until they transition/die, or visit a quality regression hypnotherapist. They hold the same memories of the current incarnation from the original being. They still hold their own past incarnations in their subconscious mind, so they will relearn things quicker like a wanderer does. Due to their subconscious influences, they may do things a little differently than the original being, which may be noticed by those in close relationships with them, but ultimately disregarded and seen as usual change and shifting traits of a personality. This course is presented in video format for free to overcome book shadow banning and make its existence known. Now that you know it exists, it's recommended to proceed how this course is intended to be absorbed by book. The title of the book is The Cosmic Experience of One, an awareness expanding course for human beings. The information in this course is more effective and appropriate to be read in book form where one can pause and ruminate and meditate on the material as they read. Besides the low audio quality in the videos and the protection from targeted spoken words and censorship, the book is a much better way to understand and learn the material. The book contains two more subjects, 104.2 and 104.3, which is my way of thanking those who show their appreciation to my aiding services by purchasing the book. Since we currently live in a broken monetary system, without your show of monetary appreciation for my services, I can't get by and continue to perform service to others acts by writing more meaningful books. Purchasing the book not only shows your appreciation for my services and allows me to live in this monetary system, but the course's material will be easily accessible for your revisiting. To more fully absorb the material, it's recommended to read the book at least twice. You will understand why on your second reading. You can gain positive polarity by doing your part in sharing this awareness expanding course with others. Raising the collective's vibration is a team effort. We cannot do this alone. Your participation is required. Liking and subscribing are also actions that make this course seen by more human beings. A negatively oriented being learns information and keeps it to themselves so they can selfishly benefit over others. A positively oriented being learns information and wants others to benefit from it as well because they care, and they know that aiding others also aids themselves. This is true in more ways than one. As a being gains positive polarity for aiding others, and they benefit again when another's vibration is raised because it raises the whole collective's vibration, which assists all, including the first being who shared. All are connected, all are one. Comments and questions will be read, but I will not reply with comments, nor like comments, nor heart comments, nor interact in the comments section in any way. If comments or questions are found to warrant a reply, the reply will be made in a possible future video. If an account using the same or similar profile picture, channel name, or my author name interacts in any of the ways listed above or other ways, know that it's not me and is a human tool working for the negatively oriented human beings to capture and twist the information in this course or your perception, or smear the messenger. Likewise, human tools may create fake accounts on this platform or others in the same attempt to capture and twist its course's information. Official sources for me are listed in the description field below. Everything else is fake.